Okay, everybody, I had made a go with this yesterday and got all the way through it and recognized that I didn't have any audio really enabled on my video. So I thought I would make another go at this today. My first foray into doing a live stream on YouTube. And we're going to hope that it all works out okay and that everybody can hear me. And what are we going to talk about? We're going to talk about Nakshatras. And we're not going to talk about every single Nakshatra today. We're just going to kind of keep it simple, talk about one particular Nakshatra, and do this as a series, live, dependent upon how it goes live. If it doesn't go super swell in a live manner, then we might consider doing it as a pre-recorded thing that I just end up releasing as videos on YouTube. So why don't we get started and really see how things are going to go? And I'm just kind of testing some things out on the side here. I can only see your chat if I watch the video thing. So I'm going to switch to that and see if people have questions here and there along the way. But why don't we get started in talking about the Nakshatras? And in talking about the Nakshatras, hey, why don't we talk about what the Nakshatras actually are? Now, yesterday I kind of started explaining this, but you couldn't hear me anyway, so what difference does it make? So today, as you can hear me, well, you know, I'm going to talk about the Nakshatras in a different way, rather than giving you a full explanation of what the planets are, what a full explanation of what the Rashis are. You know, that stuff exists elsewhere. Maybe I'll do something on that in the future. But in terms of the function that the Nakshatras actually serve and what they actually are, why don't we get into that a little bit? What the Nakshatras actually are 13-degree, 20-minute sections of the sky that are related to fixed stars. So this is the element of Vedic astrology that is related to the fixed stars of the constellations. Now notice I said related to the fixed stars of the constellations, because the truth of the matter is, in reality, that no particular constellation is going to be exactly 13 degrees and 20 minutes, right? And we can kind of guess that and know that. So they're related to the fixed stars of the constellations, the Nakshatras are. So what do they do? What do the Nakshatras do? What is their purpose? Well, their purpose is to grow whatever is placed in them. So whatever planet is placed in that particular Nakshatra, the Nakshatra will grow that planet in a manner which is connected to both the planet and the Nakshatra. If you work with house cusps, you can also have a house cusp in a Nakshatra too. So Nakshatras can also grow house cusps as well. So the Nakshatras are considered to be the wives of the moon. And what is the moon in astrology? Well, in order to understand the moon more effectively, why don't we understand the sun? So the sun is the Atman, or the soul of all things, the soul of us as individuals. The moon, it can be related to as being manas, or our sensory mind. It's the aspect of our mind that we use, hopefully, to relate to our soul. But notice how the moon waxes and wanes. So too does our mind in terms of trying to connect and relate to our soul. Okay? So as the Nakshatras, just giving a simple breakdown on this, otherwise I could talk and just do a full thing on just this in totality. But just giving a quick explanation of this, as the Nakshatras are the wives of the moon, the Nakshatras each carry a particular Shakti, or energy, because it's the wives of the deity, or the female counterpart of the deities in mythology, that carry the energy of that particular deity and put it into form, which is an interesting concept because we're going to talk about form here in just a moment. So each Nakshatra has what is called a Shakti. In addition to that, each Nakshatra is connected to a particular deity. And if you really want to understand each Nakshatra, That is the source that you need to go to. The planets with the nakshatras are equally important, but the planets kind of act as agents in association with the nakshatra, which doesn't mean you don't want to look at the well-being of that planet. But one thing to keep in mind is that there are several different dasha systems in Vedic astrology. The main one that is used is Vimshottari Dasha. And the classical reference of the nakshatras to the planets is mainly connected with the association that is used for Vimshottari Dasha, rather than anything else, rather than any other dasha that is actually being used. So when you're looking at the planets in relation to the nakshatras, we're understanding them mainly through Vimshottari Dasha. And so it becomes a little bit confusing in that particular regard in terms of the planet's connection with the nakshatra. But I do want people to understand that it is important to understand these planets as well. And it is important to understand the dignity of these planets in order to understand how certain things are going to be functioning at any particular moment in time. But more important than that are the deities that are connected to the nakshatras. So we're going to get started today by talking about Ashwini Nakshatra. And it's a good time to talk about Ashwini Nakshatra because on the 9th, if you're in the US, or the 10th, if you're over here in Europe and further east than that, Mercury is going to station retrograde in Ashwini Nakshatra. So it's good that we're talking about this today because you're going to get an opportunity real soon to come into a really deep relationship with Ashwini Nakshatra, okay? So I always like teaching the nakshatras in terms of understanding a spiritual journey, so to speak. If we subscribe to the theory of the universe coming into being with the Big Bang, so to speak, then we can kind of understand this a little more deeply. And that doesn't mean that there's nothing divine and everything is just purely scientific. No, it just kind of lends itself to this particular model of expression in relation to the nakshatras. Because before anything exists, there was something other than that thing that existed. And part of it projected itself into creation. And so with Ashwini Nakshatra, the very first nakshatra, we have a spark of creativity that's just pure active energy, masculine by nature. It's just pure potency. And once that is created, it's here, it's existent, but it's just pure energy. It has no form with which to connect, right? So what is it going to do? It's going to try to take form, because otherwise it's just something in its potency, a very difficult concept to grasp because it's a spark, and that in itself is a form, but it has no form that's present here. It's just pure energy. And that energy is trying to connect to a form. And this will make sense when I describe this a little more in depth in just a few moments. So it's trying to connect to a form, and it's moving around all over the place, trying to find something to bring it into form so that it can further go into a process of, well, becoming differentiated, becoming more concrete until finally the soul is manifest here on the planet. But at first, it's just a creative divine spark. As it is a creative divine spark and it's looking to reach a form, what is it wanting to do? It's like lightning. So it's going to want to try to reach that form in a very quick and swift manner. It's going to move really fast. It's just going to be pure energy, like going here, there, and everywhere. If you know, if you're familiar with yogic thought, a good way to understand Ashwini Nakshatra is to understand prana. Prana is always moving, and it's life force. And Ashwini is life force as well, and it's always moving. But it's looking to reach a form. Or reach a solution. And you remember I said that each nakshatra has what is called a Shakti. So in understanding the Shakti of Ashwini Nakshatra, the Shakti of Ashwini Nakshatra is the power to reach things quickly. It's the power to reach things quickly. So things that are placed in Ashwini Nakshatra can be very swift moving, right? If the energy of Ashwini Nakshatra gets a little bit out of control, well, that energy can move all over the place and be a bit scattered, right? That's one way to understand it. The deity connected with Ashwini Nakshatra, the deities are twins, and they're called the Ashwin Kumars, the divine physicians, right? And I want to read you a little story taken from a really wonderful book by a man called Bipin Bihari. I'm paraphrasing the story here a little bit and just kind of giving you the general idea, but this is the source that I got that particular story from. But the story is from mythology anyway, so it's not from, in other words, this person didn't make up that story. The story has been existed long before that. Think of the sun. Think of this energy, this pure ball of fire. And notice how the sun's related to the Atman. That kind of gives us a hint there too. The sun had a mother, and the sun's mother was Aditi, right? But think of this sun. It's so powerful, right? And if this sun wanted to have a wife, how is it going to handle, being with a wife, so to speak? Because it's just pure energy, like so big, so powerful, right? So Aditi, the mother of the sun, went to her husband and wanted some help in making it so that the sun could kind of be diminished in terms of how brilliant he was. So he ended up dividing the sun into 12 parts. That's another hint too, 12 parts. How many zodiac signs are there? 12, right? And made each of these 12 parts a sun in its own realm. So the sun that belongs to our particular universe actually was married, and he was married to the daughter of Twashtar, who's also sometimes referred to as Vishwakarma, the celestial architect. But Twashtar's daughter found it really hard to fulfill her marital responsibilities. We'll speak in a really nice subdued tone about that. She found it difficult to discharge her marital responsibilities because the sun was just so dazzling, right? So she felt really guilty about this and didn't really know what she should do about it. So she decided to go away and leave the sun in order to discover what her dharma should actually be. Okay. While she did that, she instructed her servant, Chaya. And Chaya, one of the meanings of Chaya is shadow. So that's pretty interesting, isn't it? The sun and shadow. So she instructed her servant, Shadow, to take care of the sun. But boy, did she take care of him. Let's just put it that way. The sun actually made a mistake. Right? He was blinded by himself, and he made a mistake and thought that Chaya was his actual real wife, so to speak. And he became infatuated with her and actually ended up mating with her. So what happened? His wife returned, and of course she was really upset and she felt really hurt. And so she left the sun. But in leaving the sun, it would have been dishonorable to return home to her family during those times, right? Because she would have been ignoring her dharma, which during those times would have been to be with her husband, right? So she didn't want to return to her father because she didn't want to dishonor her family. So the sun, kind of having figured things out, at first not really knowing why his wife was so upset, but then figuring out that this was his wife's servant, basically decided that he was going to go try to find his wife. His wife had actually turned herself into a mare, a female horse, right? So what he then did was he changed himself into a horse. and pursued her and finally caught up with her and became united with her. And from the union of the two came the Ashwins, the twin horsemen. And these are the deities that are connected with Ashwini Nakshatra, the divine horsemen, right? And they are the physicians of the gods. They're there to help and to heal. As a result of this, being there to always help and always to heal, they're always concerned with doing what is dharmically correct in any particular situation. They always want to do that which is dharmic. And there's a hint there too. So what is that particular hint? Well, that hint is that a spark, pure in form, right? It's not in form yet. It's pure in the fact that it is a spark. That's what I meant in saying that. But it hasn't found a form yet. So not having yet found a form, it's not going to be self-conscious. It's just a spark. So it's not going to question itself. It's not going to be confused about what it is here to do. It's just going to be here to fulfill a purpose, to do that which is dharmic. And being as how Ashwini is the first of the Nakshatras, each of the Nakshatras is either going to be associated with dharma, that which is righteous or that which is correct, and that can be something different for each person, and it can be something that we all have collectively, okay? And each nakshatra could also be, each nakshatra is either going to be, that's what I meant to say, dharma, artha, which means goal-directed. That's a good way of understanding it. It's probably more vast than that, but I'm just trying to give you simple ways to relate to this because many of you are not familiar with some of these terms. Kama. Kama is the energy of desire. Kama nakshatras will like to pursue things because they have a desire for those things. They have a desire for fulfillment. Or it can be a moksha nakshatra. Moksha nakshatras look for liberation. They look to change things or to shift a particular circumstance. But the motivation with Ashwini Nakshatra is that of dharma, doing that which is right and correct. Okay? Each nakshatra has something that is called a basis above, a basis below, and a result connected with the basis above and basis below. So what are these all about? The basis above, it can be best understood if you relate to it as what the heavens are giving in connection with this particular nakshatra. The basis below can be best understood if you think of how the incarnate world, right, the world of being, is responding to those things which the heavens give. And through a connection between the heavens giving something and the earth, we'll say, but it's much faster than the earth, it's the incarnate world. But in association with the incarnate world responding to what the heavens are giving, we have the basis below. Heavens give something, incarnate world responds. And through a union of those two things, we have a result. So the basis above connected with Ashwini Nakshatra is those to be healed. So the heavens give those to be healed. Think about that. What happens? People are born. They come into being. Right? Why are they coming into being? Well, one idea related to that is they're incomplete and they have some karma to resolve, right? So the heavens give those to be healed, right? The basis below, how does the incarnate world respond? It responds by giving healing therapies, right? What is a healing therapy in relation to those to be healed? Well, your life, Buster, that's your healing therapy, right? The challenges that you have, that's a healing therapy. The good things that you experience, that's a healing therapy. All these things are healing therapy. Every experience in your life is there to help you to become more complete if you open your eyes and pay attention. And that's the connection of the basis above, those to be healed, basis below, healing therapies. The result of the two of those things is that the world becomes free from disease. World becomes free from disease. No need to resolve karma anymore because karma is already resolved, right? So through the union of those to be healed, coming into birth, and healing therapies, your life experience, through encountering your life experience, the world becomes free from disease. You don't perceive the world as being problematic when you've reached a self-realized state. You just see all things as being God, and how can God be diseased, so to speak? So the world becomes free from disease, okay? Each nakshatra also has an animal association, and it's called a yoni. And it's called a yoni because this is used a lot in understanding compatibility with the nakshatras, right? Sexual compatibility, compatibility between the couple in general. But it also gives an idea in relation to how things placed in this nakshatra will respond when confronted with stress. And the animal association with Ashwini Nakshatra is a male horse, right? It's a masculine energy, and it's going to be swift, right? So the energy of Ashwini Nakshatra can be very swift. How is it being swift? It's always looking to solve a problem, right? That's why it's coming into being, because there's something that has to be resolved. So it's always looking to solve things, okay? In addition to that, each nakshatra is going to have what is called a gana, which is going to be either deva, meaning the divine, right? Or it's going to be human, which means humans, or it's going to be a rakshasa, which can literally translates as demon, but it's not like the Judeo-Christian concept of demon. It doesn't mean evil. It just means someone who can be driven by unorthodox manners, very self-directed, and quite often, sometimes when things have gotten a little bit out of control with it, very selfish. The Rakshasas were considered selfish. But it's a good way to understand this, the Rakshasa in relation to the Gana, is Rakshasa nakshatras will be very driven and unorthodox, whereas Manusha nakshatras are going to try to be very productive. Deva nakshatras. Well, the devas in mythology were quite often punished by the gods and forced to come here and take human birth. So with deva nakshatras, the individual may feel like they're in this world, but they're not of this world. Okay, and so in terms of planets that are in deva nakshatras, right? Let's say, for instance, Venus being an Ashwini. If Venus naturally is going to have a relationship agenda, right? But in addition to that, say Venus rules the 7th house for the person, and it's placed in Ashwini Nakshatra. Well, the person's going to have a different view of relationships than other people might have, right? It's just a simple way to understand it. The planet that is connected with Ashwini Nakshatra is Ketu, the south node of the moon. Okay, and Ketu's job is to is completion and integration of those things that are unresolved by showing us and letting us know that we have past karma that's unresolved, right? Rahu's job is to help us to resolve that past karma, but Ketu's job is that state of incompletion. Right, so it makes sense that it's connected with Ashwini Nakshatra because we come into being because something's incomplete and we have further work to do. Okay. Now, each nakshatra is also going to have a gender, and the gender with Ashwini Nakshatra is male because it's very masculine and it's very active. In addition, each nakshatra has what is called a nature. And you can understand the nakshatras through this, but also in terms of figuring out good days to do things. The nature of the nakshatra is used quite often. So on a day that the moon might be in Ashwini Nakshatra, it's a good day to do things that need to happen quickly and things that are, kind of light and not too heavy, so to speak, because it has a swift, light nature. It's a sideways facing nakshatra. What does that mean? Well, when we're looking sideways, we're looking all around us. And if you remember, Ashwini is always looking for a solution. So it's looking everywhere in order to try to find a solution to a problem, because it's dharmic by nature. And it's always looking to create a solution in association with its dharma. Each nakshatra has a caste that's associated with it, related to the caste system. And I've seen different connections with this. This is the one that I use for Ashwini Nakshatra, but with some of the other nakshatras, I've seen different associations. Ashwini Nakshatra is a Vaishya Nakshatra. The Vaishya caste is the merchant caste. It always involves interchange. So with Ashwini Nakshatra, there's always a state of interchange, right? Interaction. It's a divine spark looking to interact with something. We've already spoken about how the primary motivation with Ashwini Nakshatra is dharma. But equally, each nakshatra has a combination of gunas. What are the gunas? Gunas can best be understood, and I'm limiting this by putting it into language because the concept is much more vast than this. A guna is kind of like the building blocks of creation. Right? It's like elemental forces. There is sattvic energy. Sattvic energy is always looking to uplift, inspire, and better. And you can often think of it as a very balanced energy. And there's tamasic energy. Tamasic energy I've heard described as it's always looking to depress things. But it doesn't mean that with tamasic nakshatras, everything's always depressing. What it means is sometimes things are suppressed as well. With tamasic energy, things become very dense, right? You can think of it as a very dense energy. Then you have rajasic energy. Rajasic energy is always looking for fulfillment. It's like a desire-oriented energy, and it can be very swift-moving, right? So each nakshatra is a combination of 3 different gunas. As Ashwini Nakshatra is the first nakshatra, it's rajasic at its foundation, rajasic at the secondary level, and rajasic at the 3rd level. And when we get into further nakshatras, we'll understand those 2nd and 3rd levels a little more profoundly, right? So it's rajasic at all 3 levels. It's just pure energy looking for fulfillment, looking to reach a form, right? Looking to solve things. Each nakshatra is going to have either Brahma, Shiva, or Vishnu associated with it, one of the Trimurti associations. And with Ashwini Nakshatra, it's Brahma, the creative aspect of God, that which creates, because it's a pure spark, so it's very creative in nature. Okay? As well, each nakshatra will have an association that's either called, that's either karma, bhoga, or nasa. Karma meaning action, bhoga meaning enjoyment, nasa meaning loss. Okay, so with Ashwini Nakshatra, its association is karma, action, creative action that's swift, always with an interchange because it's Vaishya, right? Always masculine in nature. Always looking to reach things quickly and do things on a dharmic level. Okay? Now, each nakshatra also has a direction associated with it. And this can be used to find things, like if you're asking a horary astrology question, it can be used for that, but it also lends itself to understanding the nakshatra more deeply. Ashwini Nakshatra is a south nakshatra. Quite often with the south nakshatras, there is a state of going somewhere where things are more pleasant. So looking to resolve things, going somewhere where things are more pleasant, because Energy in southerly areas can oftentimes, but not always, before you put something on the comment section that says, I live in the South and the weather's not pleasant here. But the idea is going to where things are more pleasant. Equally, it often refers to going within oneself. And so this is really interesting because this is an energy that is active by nature, but it's south in terms of direction, right? So it's, what's the word I want to use? It's simultaneously extroverted and introverted, right? That says a lot about it. It doesn't question itself. It just is, okay? Each nakshatra has a place. And the places can be used in terms of if you're doing a horary question and the planet associated with each nakshatra represents the thing that's lost, right? If the planet that's in the nakshatra, Ashwini Nakshatra, represents things that are lost, then it's going to be found in a town or in a town-like place. But we can also understand the nakshatra by understanding its particular relationship to the place. And what happens in a town, there's always activity, right? Each nakshatra has a mode, a modality, right? It's either active or passive or balanced between the two. And with Ashwini Nakshatra, it's passive by nature. It's masculine, but it's passive by nature. And that kind of fits with the whole concept of being simultaneously extroverted and introverted. Okay? I'm going to give you some other things to understand the nakshatras by, like some miscellaneous articles. So horses. Horses are connected with Ashwini Nakshatra. Okay, conveyances or journeys. That's another thing that is symbolized by Ashwini Nakshatra. If there is a vocation-related planet in Ashwini Nakshatra, the types of vocations that these individuals might gravitate towards, but it's not limited to this, right? But this is just to give you some ideas of how it functions. Equestrian professions, those things that involve horses, all types of healing professions. People who are involved in promotion and motivational jobs and campaigns, those involved in the transportation industry, and equally those people who are athletes. Those are all Ashwini Nakshatra related vocations. So as you might imagine, as you've likely heard with, kind of talking about this, you've likely heard how each particular, there's several different aspects that are connected with each nakshatra. As you've probably seen with Ashwini, it's very multifaceted. Sorry, I was reading something in the comment section. It's very multifaceted. So different planets will bring out different qualities of the nakshatra, so to speak, right? Like Saturn, for instance. Saturn's can have a hard time in Ashwini Nakshatra upon occasion, but if it's in a particular state where it's supported by Ketu being in decent condition in the horoscope, these individuals can be very, very dharmically minded. They want to do that which is correct, but may sometimes get dogmatic in terms of their thinking. Mars obviously can be very swift moving, but can occasionally be out of control in this nakshatra. So I'm trying to give you both positive and negative sides of it. The sun equally would be very focused on doing what is dharmic in relation to those things that it's here to protect. Jupiter is going to want to do what is spiritually correct. So I'm just giving you some ideas. I'm not going too into depth with it. I just want to give some general concepts. Because this is really just meant to be a simple explanation of the of each nakshatra. And you have to think of the nature of the planet as it's coming into contact with this nakshatra. Please also feel free, if you have some questions, I can probably take some questions for about 5 or 10 minutes. And I noticed somebody had asked how this nakshatra is for each of the padas. That is a difficult question to answer, and I will tell you why, because there's no standardized system of Vedic astrology. There are different people using different ways of calculating the zodiac, and those different ways of calculating the zodiac will make the pada system very different. And so whereas most people are used to relating to the padas of the nakshatras in terms of which Rashi the planet would be placed in the Navamsha chart, if you're using a tropical zodiac with sidereal nakshatras, then those placements in the Navamsha are going to be different. If you're using a different calculation for the nakshatras, the placements in the Navamsha are going to be a little bit different. So you need a universal system in terms of understanding how planets are going to function in each of the padas of a nakshatra. And a good way to do that, I have found, right, is you have to think about the primary motivation of the nakshatra itself. So Ashwini Nakshatra is dharmic by nature. Okay, the first pada of Ashwini Nakshatra is also going to be dharmic by nature. So the internal motivation for the first pada would be dharmic, and that dharmic internal motivation would cause it to externally act in a dharmic manner. So it's driven by dharma to act dharmically. That's the first pada of Ashwini. Second pada of Ashwini is artha, right? So with the artha second pada association, the person's driven by wanting to realize a goal. They're driven by their desire to realize a goal to act dharmically, right? But their internal motivation to act dharmically is driven by a goal that they're hoping to achieve, okay? The third pada would be kama. Okay, so internal motivation is kama, or desire. So internally they're having a lot of desire that's building within them that's causing them to act dharmically. Okay, and the fourth pada with Ashwini Nakshatra would be moksha. So the fourth pada wants to change things. It's looking to be liberated from a difficult situation, right? So because it's looking to be liberated from a difficult situation, it's going to act dharmically. You will find if you apply this system to the nakshatras, then it's not going to matter if you are using a tropical zodiac with sidereal nakshatras, using an ecliptic calculation for the nakshatras, or using an equatorial calculation for the nakshatras. Ultimately, it's not going to matter because it'll work across all of the systems. If you have any more questions, please also feel free to ask. I will wait around for a couple more minutes just to see if there are some questions. I'm not convinced that these questions are appearing on my message thing yet. I tell you what, I'm going to reload the page on the messages. Hopefully it won't make the video freeze up. But pardon me if it does. I'm just looking to see if anybody else has any questions in that regard. And I'll wait a little bit longer just to see if people do. Otherwise, we're going to take a break, or actually not take a break. We're going to stop here for today. Just a reminder too, if you really are enjoying learning about the nakshatras through this, one recommendation I can make to you is I do have a full-length video course on the nakshatras now that I have released. It was the course that I did last year on the nakshatras, which was a webinar course. It was recorded, and that course is available for purchase if you would like to purchase it. It's over 45 hours of video. 45 hours of class time talking about the nakshatras. We go over each individual nakshatra in the course, but in addition to that, we learn a lot of really wonderful, both basic and more advanced techniques on how to use the nakshatras in interpretation. I will, once this video is no longer a live video, but is instead a recorded video, the one that I'm doing right now, then I will basically put a link on the video so that you can go and purchase that course. Also, if you'd like to schedule a consultation with me, you will see a card in the upper section of the video that will take you to my astrological services page. Somebody has said, have you noticed specific facial features connected to a prominent Ashwini? Well, that's kind of a very vast question, but I would say on many levels, they can be very glowing in nature, but there are so many different factors that will come into determining what an individual's facial features would look like, such as the second lord, because the second rules the face. And so you can only really get generalizations with some of these things. And sometimes it can get very complex to pick out by a person's facial features what particular nakshatra they are and what particular rashi they are, because there are a lot of other more prominent factors in the horoscope. That's probably about as clearly as I can answer that. We're going to stop there for today. Until next time, everybody, please do take the very best care of yourself. I can't say when the next time will be. I generally do these things when I have a little bit of extra time here and there. Bye for now.